Good morning. I'm Brendan here with Trevor.
Same guy as yesterday.
Yeah,
and it'll be the same guy the next 3 days.
Tomorrow, yeah, and a
Yes.
few other days, yeah. In for Heather this week, and I say good morning, but Trevor, it hasn't been a couple good mornings for a lot of people.
No, it has
Following
not.
that ice storm, my goodness.
It has not. Oh yeah, I feel like I really kind of like vented my heart out with kind of how I felt about that yesterday. And as you mentioned, still thousands of people without power. Mm-hmm. The good news is that between yesterday and today, temperatures for the most part, both of these days, like yesterday we were above freezing. Today we should get above freezing. We should melt a lot of our ice today. And also we have a lot more sunshine today too. We were cloudy most of the day yesterday until the evening. Today will be the exact opposite. It'll be loads of sunshine and then increasing clouds in the evening. And with it being early spring, we have a very high sun angle, which will help with melting, which will also help with melting ice.
Yeah.
And so we'll melt some ice. We'll have a nice day for all the crews out there to really hammer on things and try to get as much fixed as possible. But then we have another system tomorrow that looks, I mean, the system tomorrow doesn't look like it's the end of the world, but on top of what's happening recently, another big system with snow, ice, and severe weather is just not what we need right now.
Not at all.
But that is what is happening. And you might be thinking, ice again? Yeah, ice again. The system looks like it's the typical spring system where you just get a little bit of everything here in northern Michigan. It'll start as snow with temperatures overnight well below freezing in some spots. We'll start with snow early on. And then in the late morning and afternoon, we have a period where temperatures begin to teeter between above and below freezing as, as per the normal daytime temperatures. And, you get into the daytime, temperatures normally rise, right? And so you have your below freezing temperatures in the morning that begin to rise. That snow will, for a brief period, it looks like it'll turn into another round of sleet and freezing rain again. And so a lot of areas, especially in the interior, I was looking at a severe weather packet issued by the NWS, and they had like this large map in portions of the southwest through the interior up as far north as Gaylord that was outlined in red as a 70% chance, equal to or greater than 70% chance in this large area affecting another tens of thousands of people, where they'll likely get another 1/10 of an inch of ice. And I'm just like, you give me a break, right? Like, what?
Seriously, yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
And then, obviously, as I mentioned, snow before that. The snow amounts don't look impressive as of right now, but things could get worse, and the snow amounts go higher. There is actually a scenario that still remains possible in the forecast where some areas could get as much as 6 inches of snow. Now, that's very unlikely, I think, but it is possible. And then if all that didn't sound crazy enough, we have severe weather in the forecast too. It's very similar to the system we just had on Sunday, where we had ice and snow north, and then severe weather moving through the region, severe weather in which we had a tornado warning just south of our viewing area. We have essentially the same setup, except now our severe weather risk behind the snow and ice is enhanced. We have a greater severe risk, mainly in the form of hail and especially wind. The wind looks like the biggest issue tomorrow for severe weather, which again isn't the biggest deal in the world, but when you have a bunch of trees that are still covered with ice, the trees that aren't broken yet, and then you just slam them with a bunch of more snow and ice, and then you're just like, here, have hail and gusting winds up to 40 or potentially 60 plus miles per hour on the more severe side.
Not what we need.
It's just, as I mentioned, it's just not what we need right now. In a vacuum, it's just another system, whatever. We're fine with that. But when you look at the circumstances and you take the bigger picture, it almost feels like worst case scenario. Now, it's not worst case scenario, but it does kind of feel that way for some people, especially the people who've been displaced, the people who have and are still without power, lost power. There's, obviously crews are working hard to get as much power back as possible, but there's no guarantee that their power will be back before tomorrow's system. And tomorrow's system is quite simply going to make it impossible for people to work outside.
Yeah, we know that Trevor's going to have more in his forecast on that. Definitely here to prepare you, not scare you. We also want to let our new viewers know, because we know with this wild weather we've been having, we have more people watching. This is more just a weather conversation. We have our morning show from 4:30 to 7 a.m., but this is just a way for us to connect with people on social media who may not watch us on TV. But it's a great opportunity for you to ask questions to Trevor, and we're going to get to those here in a bit. I'll read those comments once Trevor's done with his forecast, but let us know your situation. We know we've had people comment that they've been in the dark since Saturday with no power, and we have warming shelter locations on upnorthlive.com. We want to do our part and pass along that critical information. So, Trevor, you know, we were talking about that severe weather, potential for severe weather, which I think probably leads into why you chose this weather quiz today, huh?
It does. I'm not going to lie, I had forgotten about the weather quiz because I was so busy forecasting that I was like, oh gosh, we were getting close to showtime and I had to think of something. And I was like, let's just throw up something that's topical. I did one that was topical yesterday. I was like, this is relevant because we just had this with the ice question, if you remember that from yesterday. And this is topical with what we're going to have tomorrow, which is severe weather.
Yep.
And, you know, severe weather is a very broad category. Like, a lot of people, especially if you live down south, not down south of Michigan, I mean like south in the country, like if you live in Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, those people think of severe weather as like large hailstorms and tornadoes. But for us, we just had severe weather. It's just in a different category of severe weather. Ice storms and what we just had is what we would consider, like that's still considered severe weather. But when we say severe weather risk for tomorrow, we're looking more at the possibility of the more springy type severe weather that we would normally think of, which is thunderstorms with hail and gusty winds. And when you have systems like that, the SPC, or the Storm Prediction Center, based in Norman, Oklahoma, they have a large laboratory there. It's very impressive, by the way. I visited it when I was looking, when I was scouting colleges. Very impressive campus. I know people don't like OU, but they have a very impressive forecasting laboratory and a whole program there for meteorologists. Which of these listed answer choices is the highest level of risk that amongst the risk that SPC can forecast? They have technically 6 different levels, but most meteorologists will say they only really have 5 different levels of severe weather outlooks. Which of those listed on the screen is the highest of those? Again, that doesn't necessarily mean the highest risk that they can issue, but the highest of the ones that I've chosen to give you as answer choices.
And we'll have that answer coming up.
Yep, we'll have the answer coming up. So what now? Do we want to answer any questions, address people first, or just go for the...
Right in that forecast.
Go into the forecast. All right. So for the majority of the day today, it looks really nice. I guess we could start with radar, and we'll just look at that. There is the look over northern Michigan right now. Nice, clear skies. Very chilly this morning. A lot of the areas in the interior, especially in the eastern upper, saw temperatures well into the teens. And in the eastern upper, we had temperatures in the single digits. So it was a very cool night. That's a result of like very little cloud cover, very minimum or zero cloud cover at all, combined with very calm winds, which we did have overnight and especially this morning as well. Whenever you don't have the wind or clouds, that allows the air very close to the atmosphere, very close to the ground, to just kind of escape because it doesn't have anywhere else to go. It's not being driven by wind. It's not being lifted upwards or pushed anywhere. It's kind of just there. And so it doesn't have anywhere else to go but up. And so the air kind of just escapes, the air being the warmer air, which allows cooler air to settle in near the surface. Because as we know, from basic weather knowledge, that cold air sinks. So whenever you get slightly warmer air, it just kind of floats away. It just escapes into the atmosphere, and then we have cold air that settles down on the surface. So whenever you have nights like what we had this previous night, you wake up to very chilly temperatures, even though we're now technically in April. This is the 1st of April, and we had our weather watcher, Bob, in the eastern upper in Rayburg, which is, I believe, in Chippewa County. Maybe it's Mackinac County. Anyway, it's very close to the water in between the islands, and Drummond Island is where he is. And he sent in 4 degrees this morning, 4 on April 1st. That's like middle of the winter style temperatures this morning for some people. Anyway, Nice, calm conditions today. Some in and out clouds at times. For the majority of the day, it should stay mostly cloudy and a little chilly, a little on the chillier side from what we would expect for this time of year, which at this point should be like the low and mid 50s in the northern lower especially. And we're looking at more like high 30s and low 40s. So like 10 degrees below the average, give or take. I'm going to zoom out now and kind of pan. Our next weather maker, there it is. It's over in the Central Plains right now, heading into parts of the Midwestern region. I guess it depends on what you would define as the Midwest. I think some people would include Minnesota in the Midwest. So it's beginning to enter the Midwest in parts of Iowa and Minnesota, a combination of rain and snow. You can see the temperature line between above and below freezing where the rain turns into snow. That's on the way, and so obviously it's got some time to get here. It looks very close, and so you'd think that's going to be here by like tonight, like this evening, right? No, it's actually moving fairly slow, and so it's going to take about 24 hours from now to get here. And we'll begin seeing this about 19 to 20 hours from now. It will begin to enter overnight tonight. And so I'll show you this on Stormcast. What model run is this? Is this updated? This is not updated yet. So this isn't like the most... well, no, this is the most up-to-date, but I think there's going to be a new model run in about an hour or so. This is what we're looking at, so quiet all day today, and then we will begin to see some clouds increasing in the evening. I mentioned this multiple times if you watched any of our lives in our show, if anywhere from 4:30 to 7. We'll have increasing clouds in the evening today, but it will still remain chilly, still remain fairly calm in terms of winds. Overnight, very late overnight tonight, we'll see winds out of the east and southeast dramatically increase up to around 15 to 25 mile per hour sustained winds, combined with about 40 plus mile per hour wind gusts at times for some people, depending on where you are and depending on the circumstances. And then very late overnight tonight and early tomorrow morning, we'll begin to see that snow enter the region. And so this will enter as mostly snow and will linger around areas of the northern lower, especially in our south and southwestern counties, because the system arrives off of Lake Michigan from the southwest. And so it's just kind of linger around there for a good majority of the morning. Most people up to the north and northeast should still remain dry by this time. Then later in the morning, that system will begin to more fully envelop the region. And this is the time, right in the late morning, getting towards the afternoon, a little bit into the afternoon, when temperatures start to rise. Our temperatures should be below freezing tonight, but when the temperatures begin to rise, this is where you get your gray period and exactly what we're going to see, and this is partially what we're concerned about. There is the potential that once again, depending on exactly where the temperatures line up, where you are, that we could have another period of brief sleet or freezing rain. And you kind of teeter between the two. You teeter between very wet snow or wintry mix, sleet and freezing rain, or just rain. And most of this is going to take place, if not all of this, is going to take place in the northern lower for the freezing rain. Most of the eastern upper should be almost just snow for the majority of the day until it eventually turns into rain. But we do have the probability for some more freezing rain in the northern lower. Now, I will say right off the bat that there is a very high probability that we will not get anywhere near the amount of ice that we had this past weekend. I mentioned yesterday, and I've mentioned other times before, the system we had this past weekend was a arguably once in a lifetime, or at the very least once in a generation level of storm. You very rarely ever see something that intense. But we still have the potential for anywhere from a glaze to up to 1/10 of an inch of ice accumulation in some spots. At the worst, up to maybe 1/4. I think that's rather unlikely, but you know, when you consider the circumstances, any more ice is just not welcome right now, of course. And then in the afternoon and evening, whenever we transition over into more just rain, when the system finally begins to drive through the region, or more the warm front, rather, begins to really drive through the region, is when we have the potential, mainly down south in our central and southern counties, for severe weather in the afternoon and evening. Now, as I mentioned, majority of our severe weather concern here is the potential for hail and very, very gusty winds. Excessive rain you could also throw in there, but that excessive rain is not really a severe concern until you get to more flood potential, which at the moment is not forecasted. I don't necessarily see flood potential out of this, but nevertheless, severe potential in the afternoon and evening. And so we'll get into that. This is the SPC. This is what we had our weather quiz on this morning. The SPC issues levels of risk. And around northern Michigan, we have a combination of a marginal and slight risk around the region, denoted by the dark green and the yellow. And so actually, I can't zoom in on this. I wish I could. A lot of our central and southern counties have that yellow, which is a slight risk, and much of the northern lower above that, even to the north, almost as far north as the bridge, even has a marginal risk. And so either of those risks, typically, whenever you're looking at those, you get, again, either the chance for an isolated storm with some hail, or an isolated stronger section of a storm where you get wind gusts up to 60+ miles per hour, which is well into the severe storm category. We have that potential, except now it's just slightly enhanced, because this past weekend we only had a marginal risk instead of a slight risk, and now we have a slight risk. So we have a larger potential for severe weather now, which means we're more likely to see, at the very least, an isolated storm with relatively low intensity and short-lived duration have the potential to have a brief period of hail up to a quarter or larger in diameter, winds up to 60+ miles per hour. And so that's what we're keeping an eye on, along with the icing in the afternoon possible. And so that's our biggest concern for tomorrow, and really what we're looking at for the majority of the remainder of our week, because if we look at our 7-day rain graph that is not updating, what's wrong with this one? Ah, there we go. It just magically decided to start working. We have a very likely, widespread and likely chance for widespread snow and rain and freezing rain and whatever all this is going to end up being tomorrow. And then beyond that, we have basically no chances for rain. So this is our one messy system for the remainder of this week, and then we'll finally get a break, although obviously we would consider today a break as well. I guess I won't. I don't think I need to show the four zone forecast. We'll just get into the extended forecast now, because I'm kind of rambling at this point. There's a look at the week overall. We'll still have mostly below average temperatures for the majority of the week, still lingering around the low 40s at times, but otherwise we're getting there. We'll get into the higher 40s and low 50s eventually, which is about, I mentioned, where we should be in the lower 50s range. So yeah, I guess that'll do it. I feel like I'm just kind of saying the same thing over and over again at this point.
We will say hi to our friends. How does that sound, Trev?
Yes.
Jackie is saying good morning from Kalkaska on this chilly 15-degree morning. Hi, Jackie. Thanks for waking up with us. We have Chris watching from East Lansing, Mark watching from Fremont, Indiana. There's sunshine there today, so that's good to hear. A high of 46.
Ah.
Susan saying good morning again from Kalkaska, where it's sunny and 21. Rachel watching from Indian River. Nancy chiming in from East Jordan, where it's 20 degrees. Joel saying good morning from the Pleasanton Patriots Pub, 20 degrees and sunny today. We pulled the taps and the buckets. So the end of the tapping season sounds like there. Joel, thanks for the update. Mary wants to know, why don't you report on whether gas stations are open in Sheboygan? It's a good question. We've been having coverage. Obviously, there's so much to talk about, right, Trevor? When you have an ice storm of this significance, this magnitude. We've been talking about hardware stores. We spoke with somebody at a gas station, in a line for a gas station yesterday. But no, we don't have a list. I just asked in the newsroom. We don't have a list of the gas stations that are open. But hopefully you can find that information in that community, Mary. Jennifer is watching. Thank you for tuning in. This is Sarah's mom, Trevor.
Oh.
Saying good morning, Brendan and Trevor. Hoping your day is great.
Good morning.
Appreciate you tuning in. It's always great to see your name, Jennifer. And Joel, talking about property tax in Michigan. Susie Q is saying good morning. It's 83 in Englewood, Florida. My goodness. All 83. Packed to go. Yeah, 83. Mm-hmm. All packed to go on our next adventure to a house that they rent on a golf course. And Evan also talking about reporting on what gas stations are open. I passed along the message to the newsroom, so thank you for the comment there. Gail is saying good morning, 22 and sunny in Kingsley. And by no means are we diminishing these comments, because we do appreciate them. We've just been reporting on other things, but you bring up a great point, so I will pass that along again. Joel's guessing moderate. Jackie's guessing enhanced. Kathy is saying this is reminding me of the Cummins tornado of '99, only on so much bigger scale. Looks like that's bringing up memories. Susie Q is guessing moderate. Sam saying good morning, guys. Looks great this morning, hoping it stays that way. We don't need no ice, he says. I think a lot of people would agree. Gail guessing moderate. Libby saying good morning to you. Mark watching from Zephyr Hills, Florida, where it's 71. My mom's tuning in. Hi, Mom. Saying good morning, Brendan and Trevor. Looking good, calm, and 30 degrees in Port Huron. Have a good day, everyone, she says.
Chilly even downstate, below freezing. Oh.
Mark is guessing marginal. And Sandy is saying hi to Trevor, hi to Brendan.
Hello.
Good to hear from Sandy. Getting over a sinus head cold, 95% better.
Those are the worst.
So we're
Those
getting
are the
there.
worst.
We had trees bent over our driveway when we had that heavy wet snow 2 weeks ago and had to call into work for the first time because she couldn't get through. She's worrying about friends and family downstate tomorrow in Oakland County.
Yeah.
She's thanking you, Trevor, for the weather report.
Yeah, they do have they have a bigger risk than we do. Obviously, I can, whenever I guess I could just talk about it. They have a larger risk for severe weather than they do downstate. Like, they're gonna get hammered, it looks like. So you bring up a good point that people around northern Michigan are gonna be very in tune for the forecast tomorrow.
And Sandy tries to catch you on Sundays, Trevor.
Yep, I recall, I'm almost fairly certain I recall speaking to Sandy at one of the Facebook Lives that I did.
She's tuning in when she can, and then she's guessing moderate. And we have Chip watching from Grand Rapids, one of our newer viewers. We have Wally watching from North Fort Myers. Chris is going to DTW, going to Metro tomorrow to LA, hoping the flight is on time with the weather. And Susie Q, saying so sorry about the bad weather. She wants to come home to help her daughters and have so much damage and running generators, and they stay in Florida, looks like. Dave saying good morning all. I feel guilty being here in Estero, Florida, where it's 73 already, following Michigan storms and praying for the best. Be safe, everyone. And looks like those are all the comments. So people want to know, what is the answer, Trevor?
The answer is moderate. Moderate is the highest level that they can issue of this list, and it's actually the second highest. The highest risk that they can issue is a high risk, which I guess is kind of counterintuitive. But yeah, and I can actually go back to the SPC graph where it actually had the answers on it. If you're looking at the forecast.
But we'll talk about those weather quiz standings where
right.
I'm not doing too well, neither are Facebook viewers.
Yep. Giv and Sarah, the perfect 2 for 2 this week so far. Our Facebook viewer this morning was Susan, stopped by. She might not be in here now, but she is. Thank you once again for stopping by.
Yeah.
And of course, you can as well if you want a shout out on the Facebook viewer question. You can stop by at the live that we do at like 6:22 in the morning. Give us your answer, and then there you go. As long as as long as you're the first one to do it, you will get the shout out there, the Facebook viewer. So there's this is relating to the weather quiz. The weather quiz I forgot. So the scale is actually on the top left there. The outlook that we don't like, some meteorologists don't generally consider this a risk because it doesn't impact, like it isn't usually talking about any severe weather. Is the lowest one, which is this a thunderstorm risk. I mean, that's kind of like, meteorologists kind of just disregard that one. We start with the marginal, which is the darker shade of green, slight, enhanced, moderate, and then high risk is the highest level that you can go. The enhanced risk is where things start to get real. Like enhanced risk is, okay, there's probably going to be a couple tornadoes in there. There's going to be damage. There's going to be widespread, very strong thunderstorms with large wind gusts. And probably some hail too. So downstate included in an enhanced risk, which is where, as I mentioned, things start to get real. And then we're just above that, which is typically how it works here in northern Michigan. We usually avoid the more severe weather in terms of what we're looking at for this system in most cases. Obviously, we all know about the Gaylord tornado. It does happen. But for the most part, we stay out of that. The Gaylord tornado was that was another system that I would consider a once in a lifetime thing. Like, have we ever had I can't remember the other time that we ever had You have 3 or greater tornado in northern Michigan. That just
Right.
doesn't happen.
Right.
It just doesn't. It doesn't until it does, as they say. Yeah, so I don't really know. I'm kind of running out of things to say.
Well, Chip is giving us his weather report.
Is he?
Yeah, we can say it's 35 in Grand Rapids and it's sunny, so thanks for that, Chip. And our friends hold themselves accountable. Jackie's saying, Brendan, we need to put our heads together for the quiz. Hey, Jackie, I need all the help I can get when it comes to these quizzes. And then Kathy's saying prayers for all who are trying to help us recover. Yeah, those first responders. Madison, our morning reporter, was just commenting when she got back to the station. A lot of power trucks, a lot of crews out and about as they may stay, let's say, in Traverse City, an area that has power, and then they go to the areas affected and probably come back. Would
Yep,
be
I
my
would
guess for the
imagine.
night and kind of recharge and prepare for the next day. But yes, a lot of people trying to get these folks back online. Again, in the thousands still. We've been running
Still
those
in
power
the tens of
outage
thousands.
numbers. So,
Tens of thousands of people that still
Yep.
do not have power in the interior.
Yep.
And that really is the reason why we're trying to prepare as much as possible. Because in all actuality, the system tomorrow, for the most part, is just another system. Like, it doesn't really, it's not that crazy in terms of overall severity. I think the system we had this weekend is far more severe. But again, in the circumstances, in the grand scheme of things, of what's happening right now, more system weather with severe potential and even icing is just not what we need right now, which is why I'm putting a lot of emphasis on this system. And we may go a tier up with our preparation for it and make it a weather-worn day. We may. That's something that we'll discuss over the course of the day today. But regardless, no matter what happens, we'll be following it every step of the way. Joe will have you updated throughout the evening tonight and tonight at 11 o'clock. And then we'll be back here tomorrow morning where we'll be updating you on road conditions and conditions overall throughout northern Michigan as the snow begins to enter through the region before we get potentially sleet and freezing rain, followed by severe weather, which Joe will be covering in the evening tomorrow.
Yeah, we're starting live at 4:30. This is tomorrow morning. We go till 7. And in case you don't have cable, satellite, if you're not in northern Michigan, we're always streaming live on upliftlive.com. So you can join us there. And we'll be live on Facebook at 6:20. If you have any questions, ask us there. And also, right back here tomorrow at 8:35 as well. So we'll leave it there. We appreciate you joining us here. And yeah, we're going to be having a discussion on exactly what Madison's going to be reporting on tomorrow as well. And we want you to stay safe. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Take care.